National Electrical Code, specifically Article 250.52 A2, requires that electrical systems be grounded to a water pipe system where available. Furthermore, the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, or IE, Standard 1100-2005 also permits grounding to water pipes. Grounding electrical systems to water pipes is a common and accepted practice in the electrical industry. Many older homes and buildings were grounded this way, and it is still permitted under current codes and standards. An electrician can confirm that grounding to water lines is acceptable practice. A general contractor can attest to the industry standard of grounding to water pipes. Water utility workers are responsible for working safely and avoiding damage to customer property. They should have taken precautions, such as turning off power, when they encountered arcing. The burden of proving that the electrical grounding system was faulty lies with the water utility workers. It is important to obtain a written statement from the power company confirming that the electrical line was neutral. Also, it is helpful to provide evidence of the installed ground rod. A statement from an electrician confirming that grounding to water lines is acceptable, and a statement from a general contractor confirming the industry practice are helpful as well. To summarize, firstly, the National Electrical Code, or NEC, requires grounding to water pipe systems when available. Secondly, this is a common and accepted practice in the electrical industry. Thirdly, water utility workers should take precautions to avoid damage, like turning off the power. Fourthly, proving a fault lies with the utility, not the homeowner. Fifthly, gather documentation including power company statements, ground rod proof, and statements from electricians and general contractors. Firstly, electrical systems are often grounded to water pipe systems. Secondly, this practice is endorsed by the National Electrical Code, or NEC, and is a common industry standard. Thirdly, it's the responsibility of the water utility workers to prevent damage to your property during their work. Fourthly, to support a claim for damage, gather documentation, including a written statement from the power company confirming the neutral line, evidence of the ground rod, and statements from both an electrician and a general contractor affirming the acceptability of grounding to water lines and the industry practice. Electrical grounding to water pipes is not an uncommon practice, it is actually a standard, endorsed by both the National Electrical Code, or NEC, and the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, or IE. It's the water utility workers' responsibility to ensure they work safely and avoid damaging your property, including taking precautions like cutting off the power when arcing is observed. When seeking compensation, the key is to provide concrete evidence that the grounding system wasn't the issue. Gather a written statement from the power company verifying the neutral line and provide proof of the installed ground rod. Obtain written statements from both a licensed electrician and a general contractor confirming that grounding electrical systems to water lines is an acceptable and standard practice. There are a number of steps that can be taken to get reimbursed for the expenses. The electrical system must be properly grounded for safety and operational reasons. One of the common ways to ground the system involves using a water pipe, if available. The National Electrical Code, or NEC, specifically permits this practice. It's a long-standing and accepted method in the electrical industry. If water utility workers cause damage due to arcing, they are expected to take necessary precautions, such as de-energizing the system. The onus falls on them to demonstrate that the electrical grounding system was faulty, not the other way around. Documentation is key in resolving such situations. Begin by obtaining a written confirmation from the power company that the electrical line was indeed neutral. Additionally, provide evidence of the existence of a ground rod. Secure statements from qualified professionals such as a licensed electrician and a general contractor, attesting that grounding to water lines is an acceptable and common practice. The information confirms the role of water pipes in electrical grounding systems and emphasizes the responsibilities of utility workers to prevent damage. It underscores the importance of documenting compliance with industry standards and gathering expert opinions to support claims against negligent parties. Grounding to water pipes is a widespread practice supported by the National Electrical Code, or NEC, and industry standards. If water utility workers cause damage, it's their responsibility to take precautions. Document everything, including a power company statement, ground rod evidence, and electrician and contractor statements. This evidence can strongly support any claims against the utility company. The fact that an electrical system is grounded to water lines is a common and accepted practice supported by both the National Electrical Code, or NEC, and the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, or IE. When water utility workers are performing work, they are responsible for working safely and preventing damage to the property. They should have taken precautions such as turning off power if they observed arcing. The responsibility for proving that the grounding system was faulty falls on the water utility workers. In order to defend themselves, the owner should gather documentation including a written statement from the power company confirming that the electrical line was neutral, provide evidence of the installed ground rod, and obtain statements from an electrician and a general contractor confirming the acceptability of grounding to water lines and the industry practice. The National Electrical Code, or NEC, mandates that electrical systems be grounded to a water pipe system when available, highlighting the importance and standardization of this practice. This is echoed by the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, or IE, further solidifying its acceptance. In scenarios where water utility workers cause damage, they are expected to prioritize safety and prevent property damage, potentially by de-energizing the system. The burden of proof lies on them to demonstrate that the grounding system was at fault, not the other way around. To strengthen a claim, it's crucial to amass documentation. This includes a written statement from the power company confirming the neutrality of the electrical line, evidence of an installed ground rod, and corroborating statements from both a licensed electrician and a general contractor affirming the permissibility of grounding to water lines. Electrical grounding to water pipes is a long-standing and code-compliant method. The utility workers are responsible for any damage they cause. Make sure you get documentation showing that the power line was neutral, that you have a ground rod, and written statements from an electrician and general contractor about grounding practices. The purpose of grounding in electrical systems is to provide a low resistance path for fault currents, thereby protecting people and equipment. Grounding to a water pipe system is a method specifically addressed and permitted by the National Electrical Code, or NEC. Water utility workers have a duty of care to prevent damage during their work. This includes taking precautions when encountering potential hazards like arcing. In disputes, the burden of proof generally rests on the party alleging fault. To build a solid case, documentation is key. Get a written statement from the power company confirming the line was neutral. Gather evidence of the existing ground rod. Obtain statements from qualified professionals such as a licensed electrician and a general contractor confirming the code compliance and common practice of grounding to water pipes. Grounding electrical systems to water pipes is a common practice and is specifically mentioned in the National Electrical Code, or NEC. This is a permitted and often required method for ensuring safety and proper functioning of electrical systems. When utility workers are performing work, they are responsible for ensuring that they are doing so in a safe manner, and they should take precautions to prevent damage to your property. If they encounter arcing, they should immediately take steps to de-energize the system to prevent further damage. If you have experienced damage due to the negligence of utility workers, it is important to gather as much documentation as possible. This includes getting a written statement from the power company confirming that the electrical line was neutral, providing evidence that you have a ground rod installed, and obtaining statements from a qualified electrician and a general contractor confirming that grounding to water lines is an acceptable and common practice. All of this can help strengthen your case and increase your chances of receiving compensation for the damages you have incurred. Grounding electrical systems to water pipes is a recognized and permitted practice within the electrical industry, as outlined by the National Electrical Code, or NEC. This practice is not inherently faulty or negligent, and is in fact a common method for ensuring electrical safety. When water utility workers perform work on or near electrical systems, they are responsible for taking necessary precautions to prevent damage to property. This includes identifying potential hazards such as arcing and taking steps to mitigate those hazards. The water utility workers bear the burden of proving that the electrical grounding system was faulty. To support a claim of damages, it's crucial to gather evidence and documentation to establish the acceptable nature of the electrical grounding system and the utility workers' negligence. Firstly, obtain a written statement from the power company confirming that the electrical line was neutral. Secondly, provide evidence of the installed ground rod. Thirdly, obtain statements from an electrician and a general contractor confirming the code compliance and common practice of grounding to water lines. Electrical grounding to water pipes is standard procedure supported by the National Electrical Code, or NEC, and industry practices. Water utility workers are responsible for safety and preventing damage during their work. You should gather documentation, including confirmation from the power company, proof of a ground rod, and statements from qualified professionals like electricians and contractors to support your claim. Securing a written statement from the power company confirming the neutral electrical line is important. Providing evidence of the installed ground rod is equally important. Getting written statements from both a licensed electrician and a general contractor can strengthen the case by showing it is a common practice. Grounding to water pipes is in compliance with the National Electric Code, or NEC. Water utility companies are responsible for the damages that may occur. You need to get proof that the lines were neutral and that you have an installed ground rod, plus statements from electrical and general contractors that water line grounding is normal. Firstly, grounding to water pipes is a common practice endorsed by the National Electrical Code, or NEC. Secondly, water utility workers are expected to prioritize safety and prevent damage during their work. Thirdly, gather evidence, including a written statement from the power company, proof of the ground rod, and statements from qualified professionals. Electrical systems are grounded to water pipes in accordance with the National Electrical Code, or NEC, which makes it a common and accepted practice. The responsibility lies with the water utility workers to work safely and prevent damage to customer property, including taking precautions when arcing is observed. To support the claim, there are certain steps to take to obtain appropriate documentation. 1. Secure a written statement from the power company verifying that the electrical line was neutral. 2. Provide evidence of the installed ground rod. 3. Obtain a written statement from a licensed electrician confirming the acceptability of grounding to water lines. 4. Obtain a written statement from a general contractor verifying the industry practice of grounding to water pipes. The National Electrical Code, or NEC, permits and sometimes requires electrical systems to be grounded to water pipes. This is a long-standing and widely accepted practice in the electrical industry. When water utility workers are performing their duties, they are responsible for ensuring the safety of the surrounding environment and preventing damage to customer property. If arcing occurs, they should take immediate action to mitigate the hazard, such as disconnecting power. The onus of proof falls upon the water utility to demonstrate that the homeowner's electrical grounding system was non-compliant or faulty. To strengthen the case, gather corroborating evidence from multiple sources. Firstly, request a written statement from the power company confirming that the electrical line was neutral, which suggests that the issue did not originate from their service. Secondly, provide proof of the presence of a ground rod, indicating that the electrical system had an additional grounding mechanism in place. Thirdly, obtain statements from qualified professionals such as a licensed electrician and a general contractor, attesting to the legitimacy and commonality of grounding electrical systems to water pipes. These statements can serve as expert testimony to counter any claims of negligence or improper grounding practices.